Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming out this evening. We are going to go ahead and officially start at 6:01 p.m. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Roll call, Mayor Doty.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda.
Here.
Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Here.
Councilmember Hibbert.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
All right, now if you would join us, and please stand. We will have Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda with our Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Councilmember Hasselbrink with our invocation.
You can all face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for the ability to come here and just pour into our city and just make it a community that we're all so proud of. We ask that you give us wisdom tonight in making our decisions, make our discussions civil and enlightening. We ask that you protect our police as they do their jobs, and especially right now our firefighters who are out there in life-threatening situations, just trying to get rid of these fires and get them under control. We pray for safety everybody that might be in harm's way for these fires, and we ask all this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Now we got, where's she going? Okay.
Yeah, they're coming.
You got a block back. Thank you. Okay, we have got some presentations this evening. Are y'all ready for the presentations? I am. Our first presentation is, I would like to invite our Senator, Janet Wynn, forward, please. Come on down. All right, so I gotta say some stuff, then we're gonna hand it to you, then we're gonna take our pictures, okay? So every year, Orange County's best elected officials are honored for their conservative leadership and policies. This year's Republican Elected Officials Award announced California State Senator Janet Wynn as the Legislator of the Year. Yes, that is, y'all can applaud. My only rule is if you clap, clap. There we go. Senator Wynn has led the fight against AB 5, fought to increase penalties for fentanyl dealers, and has been a relentless taxpayer advocate for Orange County families. And then I also have to add that she is a staunch ally and advocate for our city of Los Alamitos. I will probably be saying this until the check comes and we spend all the money. She was able to get our city, tell them the number.
$2.5 million.
$2.5 million for Los Alamitos. Thank you again. Now, would you like to say a few words? Of course you would. Yes.
Senators don't, decline saying a few words. No, I just, Mayor, council members, I just really appreciate the award, and thank you for recognizing me. What I do is it's not about recognition, it's about what we can do to serve our constituents. And, representing 1 million people, I was so excited, as you know, to be able to bring back the $2.5 million from the state to help Los Alamitos in our Civic Center, especially when our senior center was collapsed this last this last few months ago during the rain, the heavy rain. And so it's actually a great honor and a great pleasure to work with you, the council, and especially your city staff. They never stop returning my staff's phone calls, emails, or whatever it is for us to communicate to get help or to be able to help the city. And so, again, thank you for the honor and thank you for the recognition.
All right, pictures? right. All right. Oh,
She needs to say some words, right?
is she saying that? I don't think so. Mm-mm. No, she's done. Is she? She said her words.
You can invite her back forward. She's going to say a few words on why you were awarded, and then we'll just call up each other. Tell Senator to come back.
Pretend y'all don't see that. Okay, that's
Do you want to,
stand up.
we have you here to say a few words about the presentation of the Women of Distinction from the State Senate, District 36.
I also want to thank some of our women who has made a mark in our city and across the 36th Senate District. And so we want to say thank you to the mayor and the council and the city for recognizing these women who we also recognize this year, Women of Distinction for the 36th Senate District. We've got a few folks who are here today. Again, these are women who goes above and beyond for the city of Los Alamitos and Orange County residents in their respective personal, professional life, and also the time they have left over for their family. They still give more than they never ask for anything. And so we want to say thank you to these women and thank you to the city and for recognizing them again as Women of Distinction for the California State Senate in the 36th Senate District for 2023.
Sure. Okay, and when I call your name, just please come up for your certificate. First, we want to start with our very own mayor, Tanya Doby. Another member of the council, Councilmember Shelley Hasselbrink. There was an award for Tony Hagar, but she could not be here this evening. So we have Nessie Stewart. Nisi, sorry. Okay, and finally we have Wendy Gross.
Done for real this time. All righty. Next. Okay. Next, we have a presentation of a certificate to Teresa Murphy, who is the Executive Director of Precious Life Shelter, in recognition of being featured in the Mayor's Business Spotlight. Miss Teresa Murphy, come on down. So they gave me some stuff that I could say, but after having a pretty in-depth conversation with Mrs. Murphy, she could tell it better than I can. So is that all right with y'all that I forego my speaking part and just let her? Okay.
Well, first, thank you so much, Mayor. And it was quite an honor to have all of you come to the shelter and see what we do on a daily basis. And we're residential supportive services for adult, pregnant, homeless women. So we take those people who don't have a safe place to stay and help them get back on their feet, prepare to birth and deliver their child, provide on-site child care. We run the thrift store at the corner of Florista and Reagan, which is our social enterprise here in the community. And we're supported by the volunteers of the community. It is people like you who help us be able to provide every single day. We've been in business for 34 years, and we have provided services for over 4,000 women and children. So in that time, we have people in our community that are here working and being successful. Just before I walked out the door, we had 2 graduates walk in. One that has moved back to California from Arizona with her little boy that is 6 years old, and one who walked in the door to tell us that she had gotten married. Her little boy is 7 years old. So it's one of those things to watch someone come off the street and struggle. But it is such a delight to be able to be in a community where you get the support of the people that support us to see that we can help someone who needs help. So thank you so much, and we want to be able to give them a dream, their dream. We can't make that happen, but we can give them the place where it can happen. Thank you.
And then I don't have to do nothing. Stand up here for all the pictures. Okay. Oh, I gotta give it to him. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay, so now I promise you, everything that we're saying, it's not about y'all. We're not talking about y'all. We're talking about me. So I'm gonna turn it over to Chief Claiborne, and then Council, you guys are gonna stay up here with me because we've got some pictures that we have to take. Okay? But
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start off. Recently, the Los Alamitos Police Department had our 2022 annual award ceremony, and we have a couple people that we would like to recognize here tonight. First of all, if I could have Ms. Clarissa Graves come forward. And go ahead and stand right here. And then if I could have Senator Janet Nguyen come join us up here as well, please. Okay, or her representative, either or. Okay. So, Clarissa Graves was named as the Los Alamitos Citizen of the Year. And I have been to several executive trainings throughout the course of my career. And a lot of them will talk about relationship building with the community and community engagement and developing relationships with council. But one of the things that gets underscored the most is the relationship between a police department and the business community. And Ms. Graves is a manager for the Best Western on Los Al Boulevard. And she has epitomized the relationship building with a police department that demonstrates the health of a city, of a community, and how we work together to help each other. Now, on this Citizen of the Year award, it states, the city of Los Alamitos and the Los Alamitos Police Department would like to thank you for your selflessly going above and beyond the call of duty to make this city a safer place to live and work. And Ms. Graves was the unanimous selection by the Los Alamitos Police Department to receive this award. So join me in congratulating Ms. Graves. And in addition to that, Senator Janet Nguyen's office would also like to present you with a certificate for being named the Citizen of the Year. Thank you. She can sit down. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you very much, Ms. Graves. All right. Next, we are going to have Corporal D'Angelo Gossett. Can you please join us up here? All right. So, stand up here, please. So Corporal Gossett has served as a field training officer for the duration of 2022 and was responsible for training our newest officers to ensure they are truly ready to enter this profession and work as a solo officer. He demonstrated genuine care for his trainees, especially when teaching them officer safety skills. In his role as a field training officer, he has shown his dedication to the department through his professionalism and consistent objectivity in his evaluation of the trainees. While he wants to see every trainee pass, he understands that he must remain objective in his assessments, not only for the benefit of the department, but for the benefit of the trainee and the community we serve. It takes a truly strong individual to spend extended amounts of time with someone and develop a healthy relationship with them while still maintaining a strong, constructive learning environment. He does not sway in his assessments, and he does so to ensure that we all have a reliable partner in the future. As 2022 came to a close, Corporal Gossett's work ethic was on full display as it was inspiring. He had two separate cases that occurred in close proximity to each other that demanded an extensive amount of work on his part. One case was a catalytic converter theft that resulted in a vehicle pursuit that ended in the Los Angeles area. The suspects fled from the vehicle, and one was eventually apprehended. Corporal Gossett conducted a thorough investigation and was able to positively identify both suspects. The bulk of this investigation occurred after his regular shift had ended. He was not deterred by the additional time needed to complete the investigation. Despite the extenuating circumstances, he was able to produce a high-quality report. A few days later, Corporal Gossett was working a patrol shift and noticed a U-Haul truck leaving a closed storage locker facility. He attempted to stop the vehicle, and a brief pursuit ensued. Corporal Gossett continued to chase the vehicle until it collided into a local hotel, the Best Western. Thank you, Ms. Graves. Where the suspect fled on foot. Corporal Gossett continued to pursue the suspect, who scaled a high wall. He ultimately got the suspect into custody, who was determined to have warrants for his arrest. A search of the U-Haul revealed burglary tools, locks that had been cut, and other various indicia indicating the suspect was involved in criminal behavior. Corporal Gossett's awareness recovered the victim's property and undoubtedly prevented multiple burglaries that night. Because of all of this and much more, we would like to recognize Corporal Gossett as the Los Alamitos Police Department's Officer of the Year for 2022. And in addition to that, Senator Janet Wynn's office would also like to give you this for Officer of the Year as well. Thank you. No, I am not done yet. All right. If I could have Jesse Lopez, please come join me. Step right up. Okay, Jesse Lopez grew up in the city of Artesia and attended Gar High School, where he played baseball and football. After graduation, he decided to move to Texas to attend Universal Technical Institute. After graduation, Jesse moved back to California, where he worked in the automotive industry for the last 20 years. Jesse and his wife, Daisy, moved to Orange County in 2015 and continue to reside locally with their 5 children, Caitlin, Jesse, Nicholas, Addison, and Ava. His children attend schools in the Los Alamitos Unified School District and participate in Los Alamitos Youth Baseball League, Friday Night Lights Flag Football League, and other city programs offered to the community. He enjoys spending his spare time with his family by bicycle riding, practicing baseball with his son, taking the family to Dodger games. Go Dodgers. That's my boss, by the way. Going on one-on-one dates with his kids and going to the beach. And so tonight, we are going to be swearing in Officer Lopez, and his badge is going to be pinned on him by his son, Nicholas. Nicholas, if you can go ahead and join us up here, please. He's going to help you. All righty. No, I am not done yet. All right. And we have Corporal Daniel Kim. Please join me up here. And so our next two officers are going to be promoted to the rank of corporal. Corporal Daniel Kim joined the Los Alamitos Police Department in December of 2021. Prior to coming to the city of Los Alamitos, Daniel worked for the Los Angeles Police Department from 2015 to 2017 and the Upland Police Department from 2017 to 2021. Daniel has worked a wide variety of assignments during his tenure as police officer, such as gang officer, drug recognition expert, range safety officer, social media and community outreach officer, narcotics task force operator, and bicycle patrol officer. Daniel grew up in Southern California and attended Northwood High School in Irvine, where he played on the golf and wrestling teams. Daniel obtained his bachelor's degree in sociology from Cal State Los Angeles. Daniel's ancillary duties currently include serving as a member of the firearms and range team and the bicycle patrol team. Daniel's the first in his family to serve in the field of law enforcement. Daniel is married to his wife, Miwa, and together they have a 2-year-old daughter named Erin. In their personal time, they enjoy spending time with each other and having family days at the beach. And Daniel's badge is going to be pinned on him by his wife, Miwa. If you can please come forward. All right, join me in congratulating Corporal Daniel Kim. And yes, I have one more, and he might be a familiar face. If I could please have Corporal D'Angelo Gossett join us up front. All right, D'Angelo was born in Los Angeles and now resides in Orange County. He graduated from Aliso Niguel High School before attending Azusa Pacifica University, where he obtained his Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing in 2000. He worked in the business industry for 10 years, specifically in sales, management, and training. D'Angelo began his law enforcement career graduating from the Golden West Academy in 2012 as the honor recruit at age 33. He was hired by the Signal Hill Police Department in 2012, where he served that community for 6 years as a range master, field training officer, drug recognition expert, taser instructor, school resource officer, and senior police officer. While at Signal Hill, he earned a Meritorious Conduct Award for preventing a suicide. The Los Alamitos Police Department hired him in September 30th of 2018. Here, Corporal Gossett serves as a field training officer and operator on our regional West County SWAT team and was recently voted, obviously, the 2022 Officer of the Year. D'Angelo and his wife, Carolyn, have been married for 24 years and have 3 children, Malachi, Caleb, and Ayla. He enjoys spending time with his family and enjoys archery, hiking, and camping. And his badge is going to be pinned on him by his wife, Carolyn, who is a recently hired City of Los Alamitos employee. Please join us, Carolyn. I would like to thank thank the council for helping me out. I think I can take it from here for this last part. If I can have all three officers back up to the stage, please. Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. If I could get all Los Alamitos Police Department employees up to the front, please, for a quick photo.
Back to me. All right. All right. Thank you to everybody that joined us for our delightfully exciting presentations. Congratulations to all of those that have been honored this evening. Now we are going, that was a well-placed giggle. Thank you. I needed that. Next, we're going to move on to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. I would gently request that if you come up to speak, please fill out a speaker card for me, or I do have a sign-in sheet up at the front as well. Do I have anybody wishing to come and talk to us? Nope. All righty. Well, next, we will move on to updates from the mayor. And I got some stuff I'd like to share. First, July 3rd. I got to start with the July 3rd. The fireworks spectacular was truly a spectacular success. It's not every day that you get to have an Independence Day party with 12,000 of your closest friends. And if you take a second to think about that, we are a city of just under 12,000 people. I believe we're at about 11,500, maybe 11,000. We're over 12,000 now?
Very close.
Okay, we had everybody in the city just about represented out at our party on the base. All in one spot to celebrate our independence. From the community to the live music, the guest appearances from our elected officials, and the family-friendly vendors, it will be a night I will not soon forget. I know an army of people come together to make this work, but we really don't get off the ground without our community partners. You can say what you want about trash haulers, but our partners at UWS really stepped up to the plate and helped us create something sensational here in Los Al. And also, I would just like to take a moment to point out that we have the lowest residential trash hauling rates in Orange County. Next, our town hall with the Senator Janet Wynn. She's one of the folks that we've already recognized this evening, but I feel like I need to say it again. Senator Wynn, Legislator of the Year and premier Los Alamitos champion, joined us for our Independence Day celebration, and then was back the very next weekend to host a town hall meeting with me, providing an update on the happenings in Sacramento and how they relate to us here in Los Alamitos. And as most of you know, she did not show up empty-handed. She brought a $2.5 million budget appropriation with her. That's $2.5 million that she was able to get into the state's budget to help us renovate and modernize our community center and emergency operations center. There are folk that will talk, and then there are people who do. Senator Wynn, I can't thank her enough for all she does for Los Alamitos. And then I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that this is the first time that Los Alamitos has ever received funding directly through the state budget process, and that we were the only city in her district to receive funds. That is what I like to call where the intersection of network, collaboration, relationship, and passion meet. Now, our Congresswoman Steele, since we're on the topic of elected officials and how we strive to make a difference in our community, I want to take a moment to talk about another one of our supporters, Congresswoman Michelle Steele. A few months ago, I attended a roundtable with her to discuss important national topics and how they relate to Los Al. And after the initial meeting, I got a chance to speak with her about our city's needs specifically, how public safety was our #1 priority, how we needed to find ways to make our streets safer, not just with more police, but making the actual street safer for everyone that is using them. And I was surprised when she asked me if we had any projects that were ready to build. This is where I gotta tip my hat to our development services team. They had the foresight to take all of these really big conceptual plans that we've been working on and break them down into simple, ready-made, shovel-ready projects. At her request, I asked our staff to send some projects over, and last Thursday, I got a call. It was Congresswoman Steele. She was in between sessions, but she wanted to call and let me know that she was able to get one of these projects into an appropriations bill. And while it's not, the ink isn't dry yet, she still managed to wrangle $582,410 for Los Alamitos to go out and improve some of our streets. This is just what happens when a good plan meets the perfect opportunity, and we don't get there unless our staff are planning ahead and we're in the right room at the right moment. Next, let me chat about our VIPs program. The great part of living in a small city is that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. And I'm always excited when a member of our community steps forward and says that they want to make Los Alamitos a better place. It gives me great pleasure to announce the first 2 members of our volunteer in policing, or VIPs, have completed their background and will be ready to start training next week. These individuals are invaluable to our community. They give us yet another way to engage and connect with our community while providing additional support to our men and women in law enforcement. To the newest members of our team, Art and Anna, welcome and thank you for all that you will do. Next, I'd like to touch on the American Legion post. It's right across the street from the Civic Center. Something a little small but mighty, but it definitely warms my heart. And maybe it's just, we were just celebrating the 4th of July, but we have an American Legion post right across the street from our community center. And like several buildings in town, it could use a little love. And this past week, I was told that our staff met with a few of their members to talk about ways that we might be able to help improve their facility. And one of our staff, who happens to be a veteran, took it upon himself to work up an entire redesign of their post. It never ceases to amaze me how the small connections in this town bring out the best in us. The post is now working up their plans, and we will be looking to apply for some of our grants in the future to see those improvements built. And lastly, I'd like to take a second to address one of the rumors that's been floating around. And I'm only going to address this one because it's the only one that you can't Google and get an answer to. I am not running for higher office. And specifically, I am not running for assembly. So, whether it be to your surprise, chagrin, or dismay, if anyone asks you or tells you that I'm running for anything, you can tell them that I said, nope, I am not. Next, we will move on to updates from the city staff.
Thank you, Mayor. We have actually just one update tonight. Chief Covey is going to give a presentation with regards to water safety that was created by the OCFA. I also just wanted to mention that the chief drove all the way from those fires where he's been serving as part of the incident team just to come down and give his presentation this afternoon. So, Chief, you have my thanks.
Thank you. You know, I'm here because of how important it is, and thank you, Mayor Doby and council and city managers for allowing me to come in and squeeze in on today and get this. As we go into the summer season, it's critically important that we discuss this matter of public safety. So how many in this room have children? Okay. How many in this room with those same hands will do anything to protect your children? So as I go through this presentation, I want you to think about the two yeses you just said. Okay. In my 33 years as a first responder, I've been on dozens of drownings. And they all have one thing in common, and they're preventable. And, you know, my brothers in blue over there can talk about the pain and anguish and grief that we see responding on each and one of these incidents. There's noises that come out of people that we will never forget, and I hope to never see it again. So I'm going to show you a quick video here that do a little caution to you. It is somewhat graphic, and it's somewhat can be disrupting to somebody if you know, if they have a history here. So if we watch this real quick. That's a firefighter. If it can happen to a firefighter, it can happen to anybody. You look at this little boy taking off his floaties, you know, everything was done right. You know, dad's out there watching, and he slips in. And, you know, the phrase that children drown without a sound, this chose it. It is a silent death. And thankfully for his attentiveness, this had a positive outcome. But this is how quick it happens. So, Wendy, want to go ahead and move it forward here? There we go. Oops. Okay, so, you know, when we talk about drowning, it's defined as a submersion or immersion in a liquid. But the thing is, when you think about drownings, you always hear about the fatal drownings. There are many non-fatal drownings at a ratio of about 5 to 1 per the statistics. And in that 5 to 1 statistics, many of those are gravely disabled. They may have survived the drowning, but they've had a life-changing moment for them and their family for the rest of their life. So it's not always the fatalities that are bad. Many of the near drownings are just as bad, really, overall. And then when you come to the risk factors here, drowning has no discrimination. Everybody is vulnerable to it. The thing that you need to understand is that 50% of the youth do not know how to swim. Yet 90% of the parents say that they will be in water this year. Mm-hmm. Last year we had 111 drownings in this county. Just back in June we had 2 in one day. So it's already happening this year. One of them was a 75-year-old male that drowned in Seal Beach in a jacuzzi, and the other one was a 13-year-old girl that drowned in Irvine, but thankfully was saved. So it's already happening. We average about 60 to 120 drownings a year for the last 13 years. If you look at this as we track them here, and in that 30 to 50 fatalities, that's that many, 120 a year, life-changing moments in this county, this county alone. And when you look at statistically, needless to say, 89% of them happen in pools, both public and private, and at the beach. And the reason why, in my opinion, that is going on is that there's so many distractions. The persons that aren't truly watching the children. Because if you're watching them, this shouldn't happen. Time is important, as we all know, right? So brain death starts happening in 4 to 5 minutes, and it's irreversible at 10 minutes. So it doesn't take long, just that much time. You think how long you're scrolling on social media, 5 minutes goes by real fast, and that's all it takes to a life-changing moment. So we've talked about the definition and we've talked about the statistics, so let's talk about how do we prevent this. It is preventable. And when we talk about ABCs, we normally think about it with CPR, airway, breathing, and circulation, but we do correlate this also with water safety. So that's active supervision, barriers, and classes. And when you talk about active supervision, again, 88% of the drownings had supervision, but the distractions were there. So when you have distractions, this opportunity happens. So my recommendation is you rotate every 15 to 20 minutes so that, you know, someone is always truly dedicated, not doing something else. And further, more kids means more adults watching. When you talk about pools, 2017, there was a Safety Act, Assembly Bill 442, and in it, it requires all pools, whether they're past or new, to have 2 of these 7 things, and I am going to read them verbatim. An enclosure that isolates the pool or spa from the house. 2, removable mesh fencing in conjunction with a self-latching, self-closing gate. 3, an approved safety cover. 4, exit homes and the doors of the house that shows someone going out to the pool area. 5, a self-closing, self-latching device that is a minimum of 54 inches tall so children can't climb over it. 6, an alarm placed at the pool that will sound upon an unauthorized entry. And 7, any other means that is better than what is already described. So at least 2 of those to protect our children. Classes for C. So 1 in 4 youth don't know how to swim, and less than 50% of the adults know how to swim. So if you're not going to do that, at least go get the classes and learn how to do it to protect yourself or your children. Today alone, we had a drowning in Irvine. It was a 6-year-old down in one of the lakes down there. Lifeguard saved the child. So when we talk about pools, the key line there is right at the top. There is no such thing as a safe pool. Okay, there's a lot of stats there, but something to think about is, you know, besides the barriers and stuff to protect getting in the pool, is remove the stuff that that entices inside the pool. Take the toys out, get them away so the child isn't trying to reach for them. Children are top heavy; they just fall right over. And then when you think about a child, they say 6 inches. You need to be 6 inches taller than the water you're in. 4.5 feet seems pretty deep, but a 12-year-old child, that's still too deep. Drain safety, it, you know, kind of speaks for itself with the hair and all that. You know, it's better for the children, the girls with longer hair, or boys if they have it, to have it tied up and have the proper covers on the drains to protect them from getting sucked into the bottom of the pool. Flotation devices matter. I'm going to give you a line here. Hopefully you'll remember is life vests equal love. Okay, if they don't know how to swim, have something on them to protect them. There's lots of water sources. Bathtubs doesn't happen very often because they have non-distracted attention, right? But when you talk about open water and boating, California is 3rd in the nation in boating deaths. Of that, 79% of them are due to drowning, and 85% of them did not have a life jacket on. Okay. This is another stat here, is it triples for a 15-year-old, it triples their potential for dying in a drowning incident. So myths, you can see here the reality of it. You know, you see the movies and everybody's screaming for help and the lifeguard goes running in, but the reality is it's very quiet. They're just struggling, trying to survive, stay above the water. Their head maybe just their mouth out of the water as they're submerging. So there's a reality, and it's not the movies. And lastly here, here's some 10 safety tips for you to consider when you're around the pools and all that. I'd like to remind you that if you don't know how to swim, distractions, have an adult supervisor there. If you're at the beach, it's like 1 in 16 million chance if you're swimming near a lifeguard for your drowning. So be near lifeguards, whether at the pool or at the beach, just like in Irvine today, saving that child, a lifeguard did it. Just remember that it's fast, silent, and most importantly, it's preventable. That's why I drove in today. It matters to me. This is a preventable incident, and with just a little bit of effort and supervision, we can keep it preventable. OCFA is pretty passionate about this. We do have social media up that we've shared with the city, and I know you guys are putting it on your social media sites as well. One of our recent videos. The sound's not there, but I think you get the gist of it. Remove those distractions. So we're proud to partner with your cities and trying to keep your residents safe. This is other stuff that's available at our site, ocfa.org. If I can have you remember 4 things as a takeaway from here is drowning's preventable, that remove the distractions, take the classes, and life jackets equal love. Okay, if we can remember 4 things out of that would be great. I'm available if any questions.
Thank you. I'm gonna need you to come just one time with something that will make me smile when you finish talking, 'cause my God. Any questions up here for?
Can I say something?
Sir.
My brother, my middle brother, who's older than me, when he was a little kid, he was walking at a dinner party. My parents were distracted. They were talking to people, and he wandered out in the backyard, but my uncle, Frank, was a lifeguard. He was keeping an eye on him during a party, and he walked, balancing beam around the edge of the pool, fell in the pool, went right to the bottom, and my uncle Frank ran out the back, right out that sliding glass door with his suit on, dove in the pool, the bottom, and grabbed him by the butt and pushed him right up onto the top. I'm not quick. He saved his life, but it was just, my brother would have been killed dead at 5 years old.
Just like that. I mean, God, I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
okay. We will move on to item 9, which are the warrants. Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move it.
I'd like to pull it.
Okay. You want to pull it?
Would you like to pull it for discussion, or?
Yeah, I just had some quick questions since I didn't get the invoices.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kohler, I typically get invoices that I request over the weekend, but just the timing didn't work out this weekend. So I have 12 quick items from the warrants. I was hoping you might be able to clarify for me. I'll just run through these. On page 8, it has a expenditure for about $5,900, the Association of California Cities. It says membership, but I'm assuming, is that for all 5 city council members?
I believe that is, yes.
Thank you. The second one is, throughout the warrants, there were 3 different line items for tuition reimbursement, totaling about $6,700. And I was wondering, what's our policy on tuition reimbursement?
It's a policy the city follows for any employee that seeking an advanced degree is able to apply for tuition reimbursement for those programs.
And is that any city employee?
I believe it is.
So, Councilwoman, if I can take that one, it's actually not per every employee. It's governed by the different MOUs that between the different various employee groups. And so we can provide a copy of the MOUs that highlights what exactly the breakdown is for each one of those, for each of the different groups. As just in terms of, I'm trying to make sure I remember, the POA and the Teamsters both have this provision within their MOUs. However, it does not extend to, oh, it does, I'm sorry, for some members of the executive team, or non-represented, I'm sorry.
Thank you. On page 9, there was a line item for $585 just for car washes. I was just curious, how much is a single car wash?
Well, it depends. It's either $40 or $50.
Thank you. On page 10, there was a line item for North Star Land Care, who is our we do contract with, but this one was for July of 2022, and I was wondering if there's a reason why we're paying them 12 months later.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
Okay, that was page 10 of the packet on that one, for just over $7,000. On page 11, there's a $450 expenditure for psychological evaluation. I'm assuming this is the police department or something regarding the police department, but just want to clarify.
That's correct.
Thank you. On page 12 for Verizon Wireless, very standard, it looks like hotspots or cell phones or something. I was wondering if you can take a look and let me know if there's any employees listed on there that are not currently employed by the city of Los Alamitos.
I'll research that.
Is there a way that we can look at that right now? Page 12 of the packet for Verizon Wireless.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman, is it 12th page of the packet or page 12 of the warrant?
It is. Page 12 of the packet, page 5 of the warrant. Thank you.
So, Councilmember Hibbert, to answer your question, the way we list it in our Verizon is when a city employee has a Verizon or what we call a work phone, they do have a name to it. So there is currently listed, and we're trying to amend that right now, some employees that are no longer with the city, but the phone is still in use because we transferred that to the new employee that took that person's spot. But on the actual invoicing, you might still see a employee that is no longer here, but it's been transferred to a new employee. And again, we're trying to correct that with our Verizon rep.
Thank you, appreciate that. On page 16 of the packet, the U.S. Bank credit card section, there's an expenditure for a little over $1,100 for swag items for city council. Just wanted to see what those were as well.
I don't have that detail with me.
Mr. Simmons, could you clarify that maybe?
I'm sorry, Councilwoman, I'm just looking for page 16 here. Those are I'll actually need to pull some of the detail to be able to tell you exactly what it is, but we do buy giveaways for largely a lot of the different events that we put on. So an example of that would be at, say, the Good Morning LaSalle. We had giveaways that we were giving to the community. Either we also have, water bottles, or we'll have shirts or Frisbees, keychains, those type of things that we give away at booths in order to attract people to come to them.
Why would that be categorized to the city council's budget?
Again, it's more of I think that's where the budget originally was for it, and I think it might be for items that were used specifically related to events that the council was going to be at, but again, I'd have to research that to get the exact detail.
Okay, thank you. It stood out to me because I know that for the last couple of months, we've been kind of discussing travel policies or city council's budget, so $1,000 expenditure for swag. If there's any swag left over, I'd love to get my hands on it, but I wasn't aware of any.
Sure.
Thank you. That same page, just a little bit lower, Casa Youth Shelter, there's another expenditure, 1210, and it's also listed to city council. And I was wondering how many city council members attended that event?
Again, Councilwoman, I'd have to go back and research to see how many council members actually went to that event.
Okay, could that possibly include staff members?
Typically, it would not, because we would charge those, I think, to our individual staff accounts.
Okay. Doing the math, it seems like a very expensive ticket. That's what stood out to me.
Well, the city does have a ticket policy that allows for council members to go to the events, and if they are in the action of representing a city, then it would be that number. That being said, it might also be not more than just one event. So again, I'd ask to be able to research that and give you a full accounting.
More than one Casa Youth Shelter event?
Well, I know that they put on more than one event a year, and so I would have to see what exactly is what rolls up inside of that number.
I see, thank you. Moving along. Same page, plaques to major officers, again attributed to the city council budget. Was wondering what this was.
I'm sorry, this is the one for $85?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, Councilwoman, I'd have to research that to find out what exactly it is, what it entails.
Do we have any idea what the plaques were, who for, why it's?
Sitting here today, I do not.
Okay. Again, same concern as the last one, it's distributed to the city council budget. On page 20 of the agenda, there's a line item for, this one's only 823, but it's for Card Integrator Corporation.
That's the ID badges.
ID badges, yeah, it's listed as citywide ID cards, and it's coming out of city council's budget. Same question as before, why it's coming out of city council's budget.
Oh, that's going to be moved to the general fund.
So it's incorrectly categorized? Okay,
was,
thank
yes.
you. Thank you, that's all I have.
I did have one question. In regards to page 21 or page 14 of the warrants, for Jose Martinez, there are car wash for PD and car wash for police department. What's the difference?
I believe it's the same.
Is there a reason why they are separate and they're not collectively put together?
Probably that's the way it was billed.
Okay. Is it possible to make it easier for anyone to read it, to just put it into one line item? Because it almost looks like there's 3 different line items for
Sure.
3 different car washes.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So now I can request a motion? I'm requesting a motion.
I'll second.
All right, second? Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second.
I got 3 seconds, I'll let you pick.
I have a motion by Councilmember Hasselbrink, seconded by Councilmember Hibbert. We'll do roll call. Mayor Doby,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Nafolda,
Aye.
Councilmember Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Councilmember Hibbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna move along to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Anyone want to pull an item? All righty. So if no, we'll do a roll call vote.
A motion and a second?
Oh, I've never been able to do that.
I'll move the calendar.
I'll second.
Is it all in favor?
Yes, ma'am.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. And then I'm on 11, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, we are going to move into the public hearing portion. We have item A, which is an annual appropriations limit for fiscal year 2023-2024. And I will ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn this one over to Craig to actually get started. This is an annual appropriations limit that is required by the state as part of our accounting practices.
Thank you, Chet. This is in connection with Article 13B of the California Constitution. It was adopted in November of 1979. It was called the GAN Initiative. The legislation mandates that the total annual appropriations subject to limitation shall not exceed the prior year appropriations limit, adjusted for any change in cost of living and in population. The appropriation limit is calculated by determining appropriations financed by proceeds of taxes based on the 1979 base year, and then adjusting that limit each subsequent year for changes in the cost of living and population. The population adjustment may be based on changes in the city population or population growth within the county. The appropriation limit was calculated to be $25,536,239. Proceeds from the taxes the fiscal year 23-24 are $19,319,748. That's 24% below the appropriation limit, or $6,216,491. That completes the report. I'll take any questions.
Okay, so I would like to open it up to the public since this is a public comment. Do I have any members of the public wishing to make comments on item A? Nope. All righty. Do I have any questions from my colleagues?
I have a question. Is this, since we pulled the CAFR last month, is this, we haven't voted on the CAFR, does this affect this in any way?
No, this is connected with the budget.
Okay. My next question, on page 152 of the budget, it shows interest at 300,000, and if I remember correctly, the 21-22 budget showed about 114,000 in interest, and I was wondering if we're expecting something to double.
No, the market is much significantly better than 22-23. The 114,000 was adjusted to reflect the reversal of the negative adjustment that was necessary. The 300,000 is an estimate that's expected for 23-24 fiscal year.
What interest did we actually see for the prior fiscal year?
About 114,000 when adjusted.
So we're expecting more than a double increase in interest alone?
Yes.
Is there a specific underlying investment or a savings account that I don't know about?
No, just the market rate overall is much, much better.
I'll also say that at the director's request, the council did look at the city's investment policy about a year ago?
I think it was, about a year ago.
About a year ago, which allowed for the city to actually expand what exactly it does its investments in, whereas we had taken a very conservative approach before, and the state limit doesn't allow us to go much further. We have taken advantage of certain types of investment vehicles that staff wasn't previously able to take advantage of, and so that, along with what Craig was explaining in terms of the where the market is currently, I think actually plays a role in that as well.
Any other questions from up here? No? All righty. So then we will move to item B, which is the study session item.
Madam Mayor, if we can get a vote to approve the item. A motion and a second.
You are so correct. I apologize. We will go back to A. And can I get a motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is a roll call? All in favor? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. And now I can go to B. Thank you. Now we will move on to B, which is a study session item. It's the Airport Land Use Commission's determination of inconsistency related to the city's sixth cycle housing element update and the Airport Environs Land Use Plan for Joint Forces Training Base in Los Alamitos. So we're going to conduct a study session in order to review the information related to ALEC's finding of inconsistency. While no vote will take place at this meeting, this item was noticed as a public hearing, so individuals wishing to speak on the item will have 3 minutes at the appropriate time. We will start with a staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will be turning this over to Director Noda to kick off. I did want to mention, again, just 2 things that you have actually already brought up. This is a study session, and we will use this format going forward as a way to really evaluate some of the, maybe the headier issues that we're going to be facing as a city. I think it just gives a good opportunity for a lot of information, but also questions to be asked, and then if there needs to be research done, that can be done prior to the item being called forward for a vote. And then also, with that, I'll turn it over to Director Noda.
Thank you, City Manager Simmons. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Just want to do a quick summary, and I'm going to kick it over to we have 2 of our consultants here with us today. We have from Terra Nova, Nicole Christ, and from Rincon, our noise engineer, Josh Carmen. And so, as the council is aware, on January 19th of this year, 23, the Orange County Airport Land Use Commission, or ALUC, found that the city's sixth housing element cycle update to be inconsistent with the Joint Forces Training Base Los Alamitos Airport Environ Land Use Plan, or ALUP. And so again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but today is a study session in order to review information And so I'm going to hand it over to, again, Nicole Chris to go over the bulk of the information.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nicole Christ. I'm with Terra Nova Planning, and Josh Carmen from Rincon, our noise engineer, is here with us as well. I will briefly summarize the staff report, and we're here to answer your questions in advance of scheduling this for consideration for a vote for council. As the council may be aware, the Airport Land Use Commission, ALUC, and I apologize in advance, I'm going to use lots of abbreviations here. ALUC has jurisdiction over making recommendations to communities on their general plans and general plan amendments as they relate to local airports. Orange County covers all of the Orange County airports. In our case, the training base, and I will refer to it as the base for the rest of this presentation, is the one that affects this community. The city is required to and submitted its housing element in between the Planning Commission hearing and the City Council hearing, submitted it to ALUC for review. That was at the end of last year, and in January, the ALUC sent the city a letter determining that the housing element was inconsistent, based on two issues. The city first adopted its housing element in February of 2023, and at the same time adopted a notice, which is required by Public Utilities Code, to notify ALEC that it intended to overrule the ALEC decision. In the meantime, the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, certified our housing element as compliant with law on May 1st of this year. That term certifying is commonly used, and you'll hear it again in my discussion here. There were two issues that were of concern to ALEC. The first is that Sites 6 and 10, Site 6 is on Lamson, Site 10 is on Catella, are located within the 60 to 65 decibel, dBA, noise contour for the base. The second was that Site 7 is, their original concern was that it was adjacent to the safety zone, and when they responded to our notice, they added that it was under one of the flight paths for the airport. And I'll deal with both of those issues in this presentation. Noise being the more complicated one will take a little bit longer. Noise measurements that we have in our general plan and that are most commonly used for city general plans are from the Community Noise Equivalent Level, CNEL. And that is an average of noise over a 24-hour period that reflects waiting for quieter times, like the evening and nighttime. There are basically two types of noise: noise from stationary sources and noise from mobile sources. Stationary sources are air conditioning units, for example, are probably the most common. Mobile sources, the most significant in the city is traffic. And then I listed some examples here of typical noise levels because these numbers are hard to conceptualize. So two people talking together at normal unamplified levels is about a 60 dBA. A blender in your kitchen is 80 to 90 dBA, and a leaf blower in your yard is about 110. A rock band goes up from there. So the noise range is tremendous, and the numbers reflect that range. In the land use plan for the base, ALUC considers noise levels of 60 to 65 dBA to be conditionally consistent for residential units, and their explanation in their staff report was primarily tied to making sure that interior noise levels are reduced to 45 dBA. The city's general plan allows residential units and sets a standard in its policy at 65 dBA for residential units, and through the building code requires interior dBA to be 45 as well, consistent with the ALUC plan. We have, as I said, 2 sites that are within this 60 to 65 noise contour. The site identified as Site 10 on Catella is surrounded by existing development, including residential development. Both sites are on the outside of the range, and so would be expected to be closer to 60 than to 65. You can see on this exhibit, and if you have it on your screens or on paper, you may be able to see it more clearly. The 65 is the orange line, the 60 dB is the yellow line. In an urban environment, noise and noisy situations are pretty common. So we have, based on the general plan analysis that was done for the general plan EIR, we know that we have noisy residential areas as it is. So we put some data together from the general plan to give you examples of what the noise levels are for existing residential development in the city. We pulled 3 locations in addition to those that were identified by ALUC. The noise environment in the city can be quite noisy without mitigating factors. And there are several ways to reduce noise levels. A wall in a front yard or a rear yard reduces noise by about 5 dBA, and noise is reduced by distance by about 5 or 6 dBA as well. So if the noise source is the street, the further you are from the street, the lower the noise level. That's just intuitive. Standard building construction without any special features reduces noise 10 to 20 dBA. 10 dBA if windows are open, and 20 dBA if you're looking at an air-conditioned closed window condition. You can also, through construction measures, reduce noise levels with stucco and insulation being added, upgrading windows, and insulating doors. And when a new project, residential project, is developed, they are required to demonstrate for the building code that the interior noise level of that house can be reached at 45 dBA, lowered to 45 dBA, and what they need to include whether or not special construction measures will be required to do that. That has been a standard for several years, not just with the current building code. So now I'll briefly move on to safety. The black line on this exhibit is the boundary of the base. The pink line, which is the lower of the 2 horizontals above Laurel Park, is the closest flight path. So as you can see from the little red dot, which is Laurel Park, It is neither within the safety zone of the airport, which occurs entirely in the airport boundary, nor under a flight path for the airport. I'd like to touch on some of the issues that arise if the housing element remains inconsistent based on ALUC's determination. ALUC has authority under Public Utilities Code for inconsistent general plans to review all of our permits, not just adjacent to the airport, but within the city, because it's within the notification area for the base, the entire city. And so that could range from having to look at home additions all the way to major residential and commercial projects as well, and to continue to make a determination on whether those projects are consistent with the plan, the land use plan. I did want to point out that we have 4 of our neighbors who have also been found inconsistent by ALUC and who have all overruled them. And that includes Newport, Irvine, Costa Mesa, and Seal Beach, who all submitted their housing elements to ALUC, who were all found inconsistent and who have all since overruled. There is also in new housing law potential consequences associated with the Department of Housing and Community Development. They have teeth now that they did not have previously. Our housing element is developed to demonstrate to HCD, as is required by law, that we can accommodate our RINA, and we've talked about that when I presented last month. The Regional Housing Needs Assessment needs to be demonstrated in our housing element, and we have done so. If the inconsistency remains, we can no longer claim the 396 units that are within the noise limit, and HCD has the authority to decertify our housing element at any time, which is new law. Last cycle, they could not do that. Without a certified housing element, there are several transportation programs and several parks programs that require a certified housing element. And so we would lose the ability to apply for grants and loans from several departments at the state level. There is also a process called the Builder's Remedy in the Housing Crisis Act, which allows, if a city's housing element or a county's housing element is not certified, allows a builder to propose, and a city must approve, a project at a density and a design of their choosing. We lose the ability to apply land use, our land use standards to that project. And the most significant part of the new law, which has not, to my knowledge, happened yet, but that is allowable under the current law, is that HCD has the authority, if it decertifies, to take over our planning department and to process without discretion and without applying our standards, housing projects throughout the city. That concludes my presentation. Josh and I are here to answer any questions, and we'd be glad to go over details with you if you'd like.
We ask them now? What are we doing? Oh, it's go to the public first? Okay. Yep. Okay, so We'll start with public comments from the public. So do we have anyone out there that would like to come up and speak? Thank you. 3 minutes.
All righty. You just heard a whole bunch of doom and gloom. I don't think it's really necessary for you to worry that much about this. I think we have to look at this from two different perspectives. The Caltrans letter that you have in your packet is dated March 29th, 2023. And there's another, I think, March 28th and March 29th letters that I think are significant that should be read. They are buried in hundreds and hundreds of pages that are duplicate for some reason in your staff report, so it's really hard to find them. But the Caltrans letter and the ALAC letters indicate that their job as state agencies is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. They are not overruling your housing element. They are identifying 3 sites within the element that are inconsistent with public health, safety, and welfare. And as community leaders, I'm sure that you want to be recognized as people who promote health, safety, and welfare first and foremost over developer profit. Now, I don't know of any particular projects that are affected by this. Site 7, Site 10, I don't believe any of those have been filed with the city yet. I know that the Lamson project is sitting on somebody's desk here, and they have the possibility of being affected by this ALAC ruling. I'm not really sure why the city is spending money on a sound study when this particular development is represented by a highly qualified law firm who can go to ALAC and ask them, what can we do with our project to make it consistent and acceptable to you so that the city can have both public safety and welfare with regard to its housing element, and the developer can proceed with something that is acceptable to them. It's a negotiation process between the developer and ALAC. The city somehow has gotten in the middle of that because ALAC says this is a health and safety issue. We cannot, as state agencies, and Caltrans says we cannot, as state agencies, abrogate our responsibility to the general public. So I don't think it's the city council should attempt to do that for them. I think they should look at another way of addressing this issue and perhaps asking the developer to meet with the commission and work out a deal where both of them are satisfied and they can come back to the city with a resolution, and perhaps that would result in a zoning ordinance amendment that would allow Lamson to go forward with a product that they're very happy with. Plus, as a city council, you would be recognizing as supporting the state law, and that would help you be recognized for public safety, health, and welfare.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I turn this in.
You can leave it up to
Leave it there.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, members of the council. Thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Hansberg, and I'm with People for Housing. I'm here because we have a state and regional housing shortage, and the state policy that is speaking to what your consultant talked about the potential loss of being able to make your own decisions and apply your own land use standards. I liken it to this. I have a daughter. When she was young and it was time to leave the play date and she didn't want to, she would arch her back so that I could not put her in the car seat. And I got to the point where I would say, okay, you can do it, or mommy's gonna do it for you. And this is what that's about. This is the state saying, we have a housing shortage and we need cities to facilitate the development of housing. When a project comes before you, we need the city leadership to find a way to make it work. And if you can't do that, and you can't do it over and over again, we're gonna do it for you. So that's what's driving this, is the urgent need for housing. Affordable housing, market rate housing. We have a shortage that is causing people to be homeless and displaced, for rents to rise much faster than wages, and for people to get pushed out of communities where they've lived for a really long time. So that's the level of urgency that is coming and why those policies are coming that way. I think your consultant is, I mean, I really couldn't have said it better than she did. For all the work that you did, your staff did, you as a council did, you probably had an advisory committee, because most cities did. For all the work you did to get a compliant housing element, it would be really a shame to lose all of that good work that you did, all those policies that you developed, simply because you couldn't come together to make the stand against ALUC that Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, and what was the third city? Seal Beach was able to make. You have the right to make those decisions for yourself and not to have, Mr. Smith's, additional bedroom for his, aging mother become a subject for ALUC's review, right? That's something you can do at your planning commission or your staff planner. You don't need to devote that much oversight to a body that doesn't have jurisdiction really, if you can just make that vote. So I just wanted to say that I really hope that you can come together to get to that point, because the builder's remedy is real. There was a case for your city attorney, if they want to look it up, in the La Cañada Flint Ridge case just last week. The court held that builder's remedy applies. There was some question, and it really does. So in conclusion, I'm here to support housing. I'm here to support the city of Los Alamitos implementing the plan that it developed, that HCD certified, which is no small task in Orange County. So only half the cities have a compliant housing element. Don't give yours up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not sure what Kool-Aid everybody's drinking. There is not a housing issue crisis. I don't know if anybody's reading the news. Hundreds of thousands of people are leaving the state yearly. Over 800,000 left 2 years ago. More than that are leaving still. We have people that are choosing not to have children. We have older people. We have people that are choosing not to get married. We have people leaving the state because they cannot afford the state. Where's the housing issue? Where's the crisis? Please tell me. Quit dishing out these lies. Okay, next thing. You present an interesting conversation, an interesting presentation. What you're missing here are key points. Los Alamitos is a military base, has a military base. We're not like many of these cities. There's a lot of safety issues that ALAC is concerned about for the people. For those of you that don't realize or do not know, in 1967, there was a military plane leaving the base or arriving. I do not remember which one. It was a foggy day, and it went through into Los Alamitos on Tigerwood, or Tiger Tail. So the collision that it caused, I don't know all the damage or the people or the injuries. This can happen. This is bound to happen somewhere, someday, more times than not. Another issue, question, how many of you have ever lived under an air flight path? I have. Long Beach, close to Bixby Hill. You want to know how noisy it was? You're in your own house and you can't talk because of the loud noise. And here your study is saying, well, there's ways to soundproof this. Yes, live in a cave. Don't come outside. We can build the walls thicker. What are you trying to do to the people? You trying to have them hibernate? Would you guys buy a house right next to the airport? Would you buy a house to the next door to the military base when you know that they are planning on increasing their flights day and night, bringing over 1,600 of them, and they're bringing on the National Guard? You're going to tell me that you're going to try to camouflage the noise issue? Sad. And the other question or last thing I have to say is, why is the base's noise engineer not here? Why is he not presenting? I'm hearing one side and you're leaving out key information. They had specifically said they do not recommend housing being built right next to the base. Neither safe, nor the noise is just too high. Also, they've installed a tremendous amount of solar panels with the constant generators running. Please, rethink. Thank you.
All righty. Anybody else? Come on down.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, is the sign-in paper up there?
Yeah.
Okay, make sure you sign in. for me.
I will sign in.
Appreciate you. All right.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. I'm here for two reasons. One, I want to encourage you and thank you for representing Los Al residents. I just want to be a positive voice to anything you may be feeling or hearing or sensing, whatever may be happening out there. I know the RINA numbers in our proposed development is not very popular. I don't like it. And I support one of the speakers, when she questioned the housing crisis. But I don't like the way we're approaching it as a state. So the reality is that we have a mandate to follow, to implement. And so after listening to the presentation and listening to previous meetings, I urge you to proceed in a way that does not risk our city's ability to have a say in how we implement our housing mandate, our RINA numbers. So I know it's hard, I know it's not popular, but whatever we can do to maintain some influence into the direction of how our community is going to look, I really do urge you to keep that in mind. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then I'll ask, just for expediency's sake, if there's anyone else that wants to speak and you can see someone wrapping up, feel free to just stand up or give me a finger so I know that you're making your way. Because when y'all are done, then it comes up here.
I have a non-agenda item that I would like to address.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm Randy Hill. I live in Los Alamitos, which is something we might want to consider when we listen to the speakers here tonight. And I 100% do not support the mandate for additional housing sent from Sacramento. I hope we vote in 2024 and make it go away. I don't believe in it. I think that building $500,000 homes in our backyards is not going to resolve homelessness in any way, shape, or form. That being said, it is a reality for us today. I spoke several months ago in support of the Lamson project, and that has not changed. I see it as a gift to our city that is as close to win-win as we could have hoped. It fell in our lap at an opportune time and seems to be the best location residents of Los Alamitos could have hoped for. It will have the most minimal negative impact of any location I can imagine within our city. The ALUC finding is questionable at best. Why disregard a study from 2020 for one done in 1987? The new study eliminates the conflict. Even then, we already have 2,500 existing residences in that zone. Why would we change course now that we have mandates? Our city needs, in other words, we've already decided to build in these areas. Now we're going to keep going, and we have mandates, so we might as well take advantage of it. Our city needs to make our decisions. Local control is important. Outside agencies such as ALUC may represent outside interests. How long will it take to have ALUC approval if needed in addition to our normal code processes? And how is that going to benefit our city? If the city does not overrule the ALUC, HCD could decertify the city's approved housing element, and that could result in consequences such as the city would not be able to prevent the development of high-density affordable housing projects, and we would be potential victims of builder's remedy, has already been stated. And that would be at any site in the city. If we remove the zones for housing, where do they go? So the zones are what's being discussed now on our maps, right? So, okay, let's just say we decided not to use those. We still have 792, whatever it is, homes we need to build. So if we take those zones out of the equation and we only build where we're not in those zones, think about how many houses that is in a small area. Alternative locations, and then we already talked about 4 cities that already overruled ALUC. So basically, ALUC has no real authority unless we give it to them. They recommend things, like the Traffic Commission can recommend things to you, and you have every right to not support them. Dang it, thank you.
All right. Were you moving? You still sitting? You were adjusting? Okay. All right, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, friend. Okay, so if I don't have anybody else out there that wants to speak about this, because I heard Fred say that he has something else that he would like to address, how do I do that?
You should wrap up discussion on this item, and then if you'd like, you can reopen oral communications.
Work for you? Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the public comments for this item, and then I'm going to bring it up here to my colleagues who, with all the furious scribbling, I'm sure some folk got questions. So, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
On page 325, according to the July 12th, 2023 letter from Leah at the ALUC, she says that the city may modify the submitted project so as to be consistent with the airport environs land use plan and resubmit the project. Has the city considered or prepared a revised plan as an option?
The revised plan, ma'am, would be a revised housing element, and we have not.
Okay. On page 154, there says there's a discussions or research that's been conducted since February, but there are no contact details provided. Is it possible to get the contact details for the city's housing element consultant, staff with the state's Department of Housing and Community Development, and the executive officer of the Orange County Airport Land Use Commission?
Well, I've been working with, I'm your housing element consultant. Mr. Noda can give you my contact information, and we have been working and researching this since the ALUC decision in January. So that's why the staff report refers to research ongoing since February.
Yeah, but what about the State's Department of Housing and Community Development and the executive officer of the Orange County Land Use Commission? Is that also your title? So
No.
do you have the contact details for any of those individuals?
Staff can provide you with the HCD reviewer who reviewed the housing element, and the executive director for ALUC is the signatory on the letter in attachment 8.
On page 158, under section 2, you had stated that there were a few cities that presented their request for consideration of a housing element and were overruled by ALUC. Were there any cities that did present their housing element but were not overruled by the ALUC?
Whether they were found inconsistent?
Yes.
There are Orange County cities that have been found consistent.
Could you name a few of those?
Not off the top of my head, ma'am.
Okay, one of them is Cypress, who is our local neighbor. They presented their housing element to the ALUC, and they were found to be consistent. Let me see. That is it right now. Oh, you know what? I do have a question. On page 319, the second paragraph states that city is not aware of extensive aircraft noise complaints, and the current activities of the base generally do not disturb the surrounding civilian areas. That was done in 2015. Is there any more relevant or current information provided? Maybe like a flight log or community outreach to validate that conception?
The map that was done in 2015, ma'am, was done by ALUC. It was a reapplication of a map that they've had in circulation for and used for our purposes for about 20 years. The base provided in 2020 provided an updated map, which is also in your packet in the ALUC portion of the packet. I believe it's attachment 5, but I can look that up for you. That assessment found that the noise contours were actually reduced. That is to say that there was less noise outside the airport than what ALUC had in their land use plan. But ALUC did not elect to use the basis plan when they and update it from the 2015. That was the last land use plan update.
I know, but I'm discussing specifically the paragraph that was stating the city is not aware of extensive aircraft noise complaints and the current activities of base generally do not disturb the surrounding civilian areas. So I'm saying if that was the source was Los Alamitos 2015, has there been a more relevant or current conception that's been used through like community outreach to confirm if that information is still accurate almost 8 years later?
So, council member, I'm not aware of what the metrics were done for 2015, but since my 3 years here in development services, I haven't gotten a single complaint personally about noise. I get more complaints about what's going on at the Long Beach airport than what's going on at the base.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Also on the same page, it says Joint Forces Training Base are less than 10 jets or 25 propeller-driven aircraft on an average busy day from the ALUC in 2017. Again, has there been any more relevant or current information that's been able to provide? Because that's almost like, what, 6 years ago?
So no, we don't have any current. All I can say without going into much detail is the military base and their flight pattern has changed significantly in the last 12 to 15 months. And so some of their operations there is not they don't want to make it public what's going on over there. So to answer your question, we don't have anything current that we can receive from the base at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, so my other question. In regards to attachments 4 and 5 to the City of Los Alamitos request for consideration of draft housing element update 2021 through 2029 from January 19, 2023 by the ALEC, it appears to show that it stated that there's neither housing site 6 nor housing site 10 are located within a 60 CNEL contour. Could someone please identify what the 4 circular or oblong areas represent on attachment 4 provided on pages 171, 213, 250, 288, and 341? They're the same images. So if someone could just identify what those 4 circular or oblong areas are.
That map, ma'am, was from the update that was done by the base, and the noise contours you can see in the legend on the left. The yellow line, the outside line, is the 60 to 65. The black line is the 65 to 75, and the red line is 75 or greater.
Okay, but my question was, could someone please identify what the 4 circular or oblong areas represent on the attachment?
So inside the yellow line is 60 to 65. In the blue inside the black line, that is 65 to 75. And the red in the middle is 75 dBA or greater.
No, I understand that.
Talking about
but-
them white ones?
Yes.
Do you
thank
see the white oblong circles? They're striated.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh.
These, oh.
Well, that, I don't know what those are.
Okay.
The white, yeah. Noise sensitive?
Yeah. It's not part of the. It's,
Our best estimate, ma'am, is that it is the noise-sensitive areas that are shown in white in the legend.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
all right, who's up next?
I have one question. Thank you for your presentation. I wish we would have had you here earlier in the year. As a new council member, January was my first month on council, and there was a lot going on, so appreciate you taking the time to explain some things to new council members such as myself. My one question is, it's basically just a technical one. Let's see, this is a letter from the Airport Land Use Commission dated March 28th. It's to the city, and this is 236 of the agenda packet. If I'm reading this correctly, should we have gone through this process prior to submitting our housing element to the state?
No, ma'am. We can't, we had to know that the housing element was done before submitting it to ALUC. The requirement is that we submit it before we submit any general plan or general plan amendment before the city council approves it. That is the requirement of Public Utilities Code.
Okay, on page 236, the Public Utilities Code, which I'm not that familiar with, 21676B, says we should have gone through this process prior to submitting the housing element.
To ALUC, yes, ma'am, not to HCD.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of comments. I'm really concerned that if we don't stick with what we have and override ALUC, that, as you explained, that we will pretty much lose or add another layer for our residents and our businesses if they want to do any home improvements, any kind of business development, any kind of building. Very similar to Seal Beach and their coastal commission. And if you're not familiar with that, talk to Rosie Ritchie at the beach house and ask her how many years it was delayed because the coastal commission couldn't get their act together. Or anybody down in Old Town that wants to do any building, but whether it be residential or business-wise, the coastal commission is just another layer of bureaucracy that just adds time and costs businesses and residents money. The ALUC is a commission made up of 5 elected officials, each representing one of our districts in Orange County. I was mayor when we selected our district representative at the city selection committee, and it was Shelley Sestarsik. Shelley Sestarsik on the city council for Seal Beach. She voted to override the ALUC recommendation as sitting on the board of ALUC. I also looked at their calendar in 2023. They meet once a month. January, they had a meeting. February, they canceled. March, they canceled. April, they canceled. May, they had a meeting. June, they canceled, and they're having one on July 20th. If our residents and our businesses now have to go through another layer of bureaucracy for a board that meets 3 times in 7 months, what's that telling our residents? We're going to lose business development, home improvements, and everything else, and for what reason? The reason that Cypress has a an approved ALEC plan is because they have no airport. So does Placentia, so does Yorba Linda. They have to put it in there and they have to get approved by ALEC, but there's nothing for ALEC to look at because there is no airport in their vicinity. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands what exactly the ALEC is. It's very similar to all the other commissions. I know Mayor Doby has gone to the city selection, and there's a senior advisory committee, there's OCTA, there's a ton of commissions very similar to ALEC. They are an advisory board to the elected officials in the county of Orange. So take that for what you want it, but just wanted to get some clarification in.
Thank you. What you got, Jordan?
I have nothing to add to what Shelley has just said.
Okay. So I have a few points. I would like to build on your timeline of their meeting. They met in January because that's when we submitted our intent to overrule them. They met again in May to again talk about the fact that we submitted to overrule them, and the times that they didn't have anything to consider. The other thing about ALUC is in all the boards that I sit on, all the meetings that I've been in, my favorite question to ask is, who knows what ALUC is? Nobody knows. So that's given me a lot of pause, because how did they become this powerful reckoning when I don't even know who they're accountable to? And a little birdie told me that the chair for ALUC effectively said, because they weren't going to review our latest information, we had the 2020 map that the base submitted, and it wasn't taken under advisement. They looked at the 2015 map because that would have changed their ruling in potentially, I would assume, in our favor. But no one can make them look at it. So they were like, you know what? Just do what everyone else has done and overrule us. So for me, it is a local control issue because, to be clear, I am not a housing fan. I do not think we need as many allocations as we received, and I will say that openly and in any room that I'm in. But the only way to maintain the control that they'll leave us is to maintain our certified housing element through an override of ALUC's suggestion, which again is based on information from 2015, some of which has been revised to 2020, which will not be considered. Then I have a couple of questions. The first is, out of all the cities that receive inconsistency notices from ALUC, have any of those cities failed to override them?
I can't answer that question, Mayor, not without researching it.
Okay.
We can, again, the nice thing about this being a study session is that we can go back and make sure that we clearly identify what those white lines on that map were, and then also we can do an accounting. I will say, to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then can you tell me what the impact would be on our residents if we did not vote to override ALUC? Or our businesses, for that matter, because I believe that both would have to present projects to ALUC, correct?
That's correct, ma'am. The ALEC process, they meet once a month. If you were to have to process through them, they would have to go. It's about 6 weeks from the time you apply to the time they go to hearing, and so if somebody had a remodel and it needed to go through them in addition to the city process, which is relatively efficient for a remodel, they would have to go through to have the ALEC board make a determination as to whether or not that remodel was consistent or inconsistent with the base land use plan.
Okay, and can one of y'all tell me which neighborhoods would be affected immediately by us not overriding
All
their
of-
determination?
All of LaSalle, ma'am. The entire city is within the ALUC notification area.
I was not expecting that answer. Okay. Say we don't override and we get a builder's remedy. Would the builder have to go through ALUC? I've been asking this question in every room, and I know the answer,
Yes.
but I want you to tell me.
They would, if they were outside the 60 to 65 dBA. So on any site other than that area where Site 10 is, or the very southeast end of town, they would be found consistent.
Where would they build then?
They could take over an existing commercial building.
See, that's what I need you to tell me.
Yeah.
Because it's sounding like, oh, well, they can build in the same place and they can get an approval. But then you tell me, and if you know streets or landmarks, tell me then where they would potentially be able to build based on, and you might know the answer, based on the 65, 60 dBAs.
Yeah, I was going to speak more, I guess, generally to the builder's remedy application. And that would not be limited to sites that are under review in the general plan. That's a citywide application. And essentially under the builder's remedy provisions, if our housing element were to be decertified, the city would not be in a position to deny high-density housing projects on the basis that it conflicts with our general plan or our zoning regulations. So in normal circumstances, if someone would like to build an R2 housing development in an R2 zone, they can build to a certain extent within the densities permitted in the R2 zone. What the builder's remedy says is that a developer can come in within any zone of the city. It could be a zone that was zoned for low-density residential. It could be a commercial lot or something different. And they can submit an application for a high-density housing development. And as long as they provide a certain percentage of units for lower income residents, the city no longer has the authority to say, we won't approve that because it's inconsistent with our zoning. We can't say, you can't build R4 densities in an R2 zone, or you can't build R4 housing developments in a commercially zoned parcel. So that's the implication, is that we would be put in a position of not being able to oversee, control, limit, or condition certain affordable and high-density housing projects citywide, notwithstanding our underlying zoning.
Okay, I got two more questions and then a final comment. There was some discussion of a revised housing plan to meet what conditions ALUC has given us. Would that housing plan then need to be approved by HCD again, and was that ever floated as a possibility?
I'm sorry, Chet.
Oh, no, go ahead.
We have discussed let me back up. The most difficult part of developing this housing element was identifying sites, without exception. I do not believe that we have any sites available that could generate the 396 units that are affected by Site 7, Site 6, and Site 10, based on how difficult it was to identify the sites that we included in the housing element. HCD has to find those sites acceptable. And so, because any amendment to our housing element requires HCD approval. So I don't know where we'd find them, but we would have to amend our housing element to account for 396 sites elsewhere, or substantially increase the density of the sites that we already have in the element, particularly in the Old Town plan.
Okay. And then on a long shot,
Ron, I believe you mentioned the base activity and how you can't speak to what they've got going on because it's hush top secret. But whatever they've got going on, is there any way to leverage that in our favor to work with some of these numbers at all? Like, is that something that would be taken under advisement to any of these acronyms that we are beholden to?
HCD is the only state agency that has the authority to approve or disapprove one of our housing elements or one of our general plan elements. Our general plan is otherwise entirely under local control. So HCD has to be satisfied. The housing element law sets a process. SCAG assigned us our RINA numbers. SCAG, after hearing multiple appeals, finalized that RINA. There are no provisions for reassigning those units, and it's a no net loss system.
Yeah.
I might just for clarity's sake, the state has been very clear about the ability of using the base itself to satisfy these numbers?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And that was, I'm assuming, was in the negative.
That, I guess it should have been, oh, no.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make that clear that the city, when originally looking at different sites, did try to assess some of those units onto the base in order to try to alleviate the pain throughout the rest of the city. And that was flatly rejected by the HCD as a standard.
However, HCD did use the base to determine our acreage.
That is absolutely
And then
correct.
they disallowed the 2 miles, AKA half of our city, to put housing in there.
I'm still fighting with them about that, just so that everybody's clear.
That is also correct.
Okay, I'm on film, on video. Y'all can run it back. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but just so that we're all clear. So my last comment on this, because it really just, I need another soda. But the problem is this, and I don't know how to alleviate it. I'm still, throwing these Hail Marys. We got an approved housing element from HCD that we did not have to run by ALUC first. And now we can become unapproved because ALUC won't agree with what our city has said we can get done. And if that doesn't really exemplify the disassociation between all of these moving parts, I don't know what else does. I mean, really, the only control I have left is to say, okay, we can do this, run all of your plans through our council, because there's no approved project. Just because someone submits a project now, we still maintain the authority to say, yes, you can do that, or conditional, here's the parts that we need. And we got that without ALUC. This system is, don't talk about SCAG. And I'm on SCAG. We're not gonna talk about SCAG. But okay, all right. It's okay, this is all okay, I'm okay. All right, that was all. Did you have anything else to add? Or did anybody else have any final questions for this study moment?
Just real quick, also keep in mind that ALUC changes every 2 years because it's elected officials. So in 2024, Shelley Sestarsik is termed out, so she won't be on ALUC. And we start the process all over again with brand new representatives.
Well, they're shorter person right now because there's a district that's not covered.
Yeah.
Nobody opted to take the seat. So there's also that. Okay.
Well, Council, again, there were a few questions that I think were asked of staff that obviously will provide clarification before we bring this item back to the council for consideration. As noted before, this is a study session item, so there is no vote tonight. But again, we'll be able to answer those questions. And I think, I see the city attorney moving to the microphone, so that means that I'm going to be quiet, but I think he's going to tell us that we need to, no, I'm not stealing your thunder, man. You do you.
Well, how long can we submit questions, because sometimes you got to go home and ruminate on it, and after it's marinated a little bit, more questions come. So how long do we have to send y'all questions for clarification or information?
One of the things that we were going to ask you to do tonight was to continue the public hearing to a date specific. We were considering the August meeting being appropriate, given that it's a month from now. That being said, if the council believes that you're going to need more time to submit questions, we can pick another date.
So bring ALUC back to council next month?
That would be the plan at the moment.
To vote, not more study?
Not to provide further study, but to actually vote.
Is there a deadline on when we have to vote this?
No, I mean, the longer we were sort of in this middle area of not acting, the risk, obviously, that ALUC may say, okay, it's time to either override or start submitting permits to us. That's more likely to happen the longer we sit on this. But we are engaged in the process. The statute says that you have to have the public hearing no less than 45 days after notifying ALUC of your intention. So that's sort of the entry point, not the bookends of when we have to actually handle this.
Do they have the authority to wreak havoc on us because we didn't officially vote yes or no?
The statute reads that until the city either amends its general plan or overrides the ALUC determination, the ALUC can, on its side, make the call that all permits, approvals, and regulations be provided to ALUC for review until we take that action. So,
And I will say, sorry, Mr. Chair, that in conversations with HCD, that they are watching tonight's meeting. They will be watching our future meetings going forward in order to see when exactly action will be taken on this item.
Still stand by what I said. Okay, so I guess that would depend on how's everybody feeling? Like, are you feeling like, I still might have some questions, but I don't have them yet?
I feel like I have
wanna do
another
my own
question.
research.
I have one more question.
Okay.
I feel like I have a question. Last
We'll sit there until it pops out.
last month, Ms. Chris joined us, and there was something referred to, the additional housing was referred to as gravy. That, to my recollection, was safety or safety numbers. Those extra numbers, if the sites that ALUC finds inconsistent were removed, does the remainder of the sites, because of the extra that was built in for situations or problems, is there anything left? Is there enough left to hit the RINA numbers?
The short answer is no, and I would like to clarify. And I will apologize to the council for using the term gravy. I have never had one single word thrown back in my face that much in a 30-day period. It was an unfortunate choice of words between two colleagues in emails that we were just trying to get the housing element approved. The 527 units that have been referred to in social media as gravy are the difference between the units that we assigned for RINA, for all income categories, and the maximum capacity of the sites that are listed. So we have 11 sites in our sites inventory. If you multiply by the acreage by the maximum density for each of those sites, we have that capacity is 570 units more than we need for RINA. It is not realistic capacity, which is what state law requires and what HCD requires that you analyze, because Los Alamitos does not develop at maximum density historically. So we calculated lower densities for our housing element sites that HCD eventually agreed showed a realistic capacity based on development surrounding the city, because in Los Alamitos, as you're aware, we have not had large quantities of residential development. But they allowed a regional approach, and we demonstrated that the densities that we were proposing for RINA were realistic. And that was part of the way that we got the RINA certified, that we got HCD to agree. So those 500 and those 572 are not part of the RINA. They were never intended to be. They were simply to show the total density allowed. My previous comment about having to increase density at other sites to make up for the 396 could be that in the downtown specific plan, for example, instead of having small quantities distributed over several sites in the downtown plan, that a revised housing element would have to require that all of the residential units be built at maximum density and all be lower income, for example, to make up the difference if we lose those 396.
Thank you. Any other questions that we can think of right now? And then you want to bring it for next month, and then what do we vote to do that now? Okay. Are there any other questions right now? And then, what is that, a motion and a second to bring it for August?
To continue the public hearing to August 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m.
All right, so my first thing, were there any other questions right now? So I assume that if we have more questions, then we would send them to you.
That is correct, ma'am. Also, I'd ask that you include Ron in those emails as well, simply because his department is handling this particular project.
Gotcha.
But please do CC me as well. Thank you.
Okay, so do we feel like we have sufficient information to make a determination at our August 21st council meeting? And if so, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to continue the public hearing to our August meeting at 6 p.m.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, Panther crowd. Okay, now we have another discussion item?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay.
If it pleases the council, actually, I believe that Irving Montenegro will be doing this presentation. This is an economic development initiative that would be part of our Celebrate Los Al in September. With that, I'm going to invite Mr. Montenegro.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm overjoyed to be here tonight to present to you a positive look on our Pine Streets grant program. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of background, it's included in the report, but the Memorial Care Millers Children's and Women's Hospital, Long Beach, Celebrate Los Sullivan is put on by our talented recreation team. This year, what we're trying to introduce now is another wrinkle to the event, one that's going to basically incentivize our local restaurants in town to participate. So this new element to Celebrate Los Sullivan is intended, as Mr. Chet Simmons mentioned, to be an economic development-driven program, and it was intended to promote Los Alamitos-based restaurants along with home-based food-related businesses. So there's two layers to that. It's all of our restaurants in town in Los Alamitos, along with any approved home-based food-related businesses that will be eligible to participate. And again, the objective behind this program is to create heightened awareness and to increase the visibility and connectivity of our businesses in town with this event. So as I mentioned earlier, who can participate? It's going to be a mixture of the different restaurants in town. Of course, there's eligibility requirements. Those eligibility requirements, among those are that they have to possess a business license in town with no outstanding code violations. The application itself, which will be available hopefully after tonight's meeting, will cover all of the other criteria that's also listed in the report. But those are the main ones, is that they have to maintain a business license in the city, whether it be a restaurant or a home-based operation. And the variety of the dining options will be a part of the decision-making as well, of how restaurants can participate in this program. Why is it beneficial? Well, this is a kind of a win-win scenario. It's beneficial for the event itself, as it already has been a highly attended event, but this would just naturally draw more interest, because who doesn't like food? So we'll make sure that this is highly publicized and that all of the variety of dining options will not only increase the participation for recreation, for the city itself, but also, more importantly, for the businesses that are participating in this program. And as it's listed there, it is free on-site marketing in the sense that people that come visit will learn more about the variety of the restaurants or dining options in the city. It is going to be in the design of a taste of the different samples, albeit that each exhibitor, as we call each participating restaurant at the event, would identify one menu item that would be considered a taste sample that is featured in their menu at their shop or through their business. This naturally would support local restaurants and home-based businesses, as I mentioned earlier. So when will it launch? Again, providing that we get everyone's approval tonight, we will be ready to go. Applications live for anybody that would like to participate that meets the criteria through the month of just September for final review. It's not listed in the slide, but it's in the report that we are logistically prepared to host 20 exhibitors at this event. And that is because the nature of this program is going to be at Pine Street. It's not just going to be this Pine Streets program. It's going to be also all of the other features of the event, including the run, the carnival, different types of activities, concerts, and then our friends in PD will be out there as well. So it's going to be a full-fledged city event where we hope that, again, attendance will just be maximized through this program. The way that the application process will proceed is it's first come, first served. Again, meaning that they, provided they meet all the qualifications. And the biggest catch is that they must participate in the entire event. So it's not just they show up for a little bit, they leave. There is a commitment involved, of course, being that this is a reimbursable grant program. They must be there the entirety of the event for Pine Streets, for the phase of the Pine Streets program. And the reimbursement itself is set to take place in phases, and what that means is, and I'll go on to this, is that each participating restaurant that is accepted will receive up to $5,000 of reimbursement money that is going to be dedicated to personnel and supply expenses. And they must, of course, provide the proof of these, whether it be verification that there's employees through the business. Also, the supply lines will have receipt forms that they must submit. And this is intended, again, to help offset the burden of costs for each restaurant or participating business, in that they must still run their shop even outside of this event. So sometimes that might create hardship of commitment. Well, this is there to incentivize their involvement and commitment through the event. So the grant total itself can reach $100,000. The outreach and event will be city absorbed through $10,000 of, again, funded through ARPA, but it will be at the city's expense. So the grant itself is available to the businesses at $100,000. And then there is going to be a nominal fee involved for participants that are attending the event. In other words, someone that wants to visit an exhibitor isn't just, they just walk up and they grab a food sample. They have to participate in either a ticket sale or wristband that allows them access to basically receive the different samples. And that is going to then be kicked back to the Los Alamitos Community Foundation for community-based programs and fundraisers. So with that being said, I wrap up the presentation. If there's any questions or any comments, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions up here?
I think this is an absolutely great idea. Yeah, to you and your team, thanks for putting this together. I participate in the Run Los Al 5K, and to really bring this on to that day, it's a lot of energy. So, well done, thank you.
And I know one of the concepts that we talked in budget and finances, I know 4 weeks after the LaSalle event is Taste for LaSalle, which has been going on for 20-plus years. We certainly didn't want to compete with them, and we didn't want our restaurants to have to choose one or the other. Larry and group has been working 20-plus years for Taste for LaSalle, and they have other restaurants, so we thought that incentivizing them to say, you know what, you're going to get some more exposure, but you're not going to have to worry about the outgoing of expense would hopefully not make them choose one or the other, but be able to participate in both.
Very nice.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that, yeah, this is just an incredible program. I've reviewed it, like in depth, of course, and I've done a lot of research about it and the guidelines and everything and how you have the participating restaurants. And I just want to just thank you guys for all the work that you guys do. I mean, on a daily, and I know just being part of Parks and Recs in the community and just the development that you guys put forth your efforts, I just want to say thank you. This is going to be truly, I think, successful. So.
Here, here. All right. I need a motion in a second.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, no, that was a roll call vote. You supposed to do roll call? I can do all ayes? Okay. You got my 5 ayes? All right. Oh, so the last thing would be council announcements, but, friend, we had item 6 was public comment, so I'll let you go before we go, okay?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Council Members. My name is Greg Wood. I've been trying to bring a neighborhood issue that actually I don't want to discuss it in this public forum with names and specific addresses. I've been trying to reach out to Mr. Mayor Nafolda for the last month by phone, by emails, to no regard. If he takes smoke signals, then what type of smoke signals can I send you? But I haven't heard back, and so I don't know if this is the right forum. If I could speak with him afterwards, and we can, because I believe we live in the same neighborhood, and we know some of the same people, and it affects both of us. It affects both of our properties. So if I could either meet with him afterwards to discuss this, and maybe he could apprise you of this later in private, or we can then somehow discuss it later, that would be.
So here's what we can do, because I hear you, is we will get with Ron before you leave, okay? And then because for me personally, when residents contact me directly, I send it to staff, and I have them give me whatever the best answer is. And then depending on what that is, I'll say, hey, either send me the answer so I can look like I'm wearing a cape and I'll send it back, or I'll have them address the resident directly. But if you reach out to Ron, we can absolutely start looking into what your issue is.
So there's personal information in here. If I could just give a letter to.
Give it to Ron.
Okay.
Yep. You can give it to Ron.
Okay.
You can trust him. Okay. Okay.
I would appreciate that.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
And I take smoke signals too, so you can feel free to email any of us up here. We will all get back to you with, some of us are a little quicker than others because some of us have a little more time, but maybe just add one more to that CC, and we will get you over to someone to help. But thank you for coming, and Ron has got you. Okay? All right, well, we will move on to our council announcements. So at this time, yes.
I'm here to support Greg too, in this whole matter. So I think we all are here, just leave behind him and support him.
Okay. Okay, so I'm sure Ron has several more cards in his pocket. So all of y'all, please feel free to either grab a card from him or get his number before you leave, okay? Oh, wait, not right now, though. My meeting is not over. Yeah, no. I broke protocol a little bit. Y'all said, we going. Not yet. All right, so now we will move on to council announcements. At this time, council members may also report on items not specifically described on the agenda that are of interest to the community, provided that no action or discussion is taken, except to provide staff direction to report back or to place the item on a future agenda. Councilmember Hibbard.
Thank you, Mayor Doby. Like Mayor Doby mentioned earlier, the rumor mill is alive and well. I am not planning on running for assembly either. That was a rumor that got back to me. So just so everyone knows, I'm here for another 3.5 years. The Rossmore Los Alamitos Library is still closed. It closed down earlier this year for some renovations. So they're bringing in some well-needed technologies that it's looking to be closed, continue to be closed for the rest of the year, maybe early '24. On June 28th, I attended the OC Sanitation's Honor Walk event where former employees and board members were honored for their contributions to the sanitation district. And one of the biggest takeaways from that event is I learned that Ellis Avenue was named after Mr. Ellis, who used to serve on the OC Sanitation Board. On June 29th, I also had the honor of attending Officer Lopez, who we saw tonight, his police academy graduation with Chief Claiborne and the command staff. I'd never actually attended a police academy graduation before, and it was more emotional than I thought. But it was really cool to see the start of his career, and then seeing him officially signed as a Los Alamitos police officer. So, looking forward to seeing more of that. Like Mayor Doby mentioned earlier, the July 3rd event was absolutely phenomenal. The fireworks, Emlyn, really great job. I've heard nothing but great things still, weeks after the event, so thank you. And for those of you that are looking forward to the Run 5K event, the Couch to 5K training program is starting tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Community Center. And this program is going to help us get race ready for the Losel 5K. I'm already registered. Hopefully you guys are registered as well. And maybe we can get a band for those treats, or get a little workaround or something. We could have that food free. But I'm looking forward to that tomorrow at 6:30. And with that, I have two motions that I'd like to make tonight. The first motion is I'd like to move to remove the $250,000 expenditure for trash cans, that I like to call fancy trash cans, from the 23-24 adopted budget, and reallocate 100% of that $250,000 general fund expenditure entirely to the Los Alamitos Police Department. And if someone is willing to second that. We can't act on that.
So procedurally, what would happen is, if I understand correctly, Councilmember Hibbert would like an item to come forward to discuss that. Our policy allows that she would make the motion, so to speak, and then someone would second that before we allocated staff resources to investigate the request.
I guess I'm confused. Maybe you clarify for me. Do we have $250,000 in the budget going to trash cans right now?
So we can't go too far into it because it has not been agendized.
I know
this
you like the
evening, but
box. Put me in the box and then just dance.
With our council member policy, a single council member can ask to have an item placed on the future agenda, but it's as the clerk has explained, it's somewhat of a two-step process. It would come back with a very cursory sort of setting the stage type report of what had been asked. And then at that time, the council as a majority has to make a determination as to whether or not they want it to be treated as a full agenda item at the subsequent meeting, which would involve staff resources and time to put together a more complete agenda. So based on the recommendation from Councilmember Hibbert this evening, I think we'd come back at the next meeting to allow the majority of the council to consider whether or not they want to have that conversation and the opportunity to vote on the motion that she's presented tonight.
Can the motion bring a vote next month?
Now, the adopted policy says that the vote would only be to determine whether or not you want full consideration at a subsequent meeting. So by design, it's been approved to be a two-step process.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have $250,000 allocated to trash cans?
So, what, sorry, now I'm in a box because how much I can discuss it because it's not on the internet. That being said, very briefly, there is an item that was part of the CIP list that did earmark, and Mr. Noda, if you can remind me if I'm wrong, but $250,000 for trash can replacement citywide. But it also has to do with ensuring that the city is meeting the policies that the state has handed down with regards to
Organic.
trash, which also requires us to build enclosures, which also requires us.
No, I got
to
it
have
now. So
additional-
maybe we do some more in-depth understanding of what 250 is for? Can we, will that suffice for you, Councilmember Hibbert?
I'd like to move the $250,000 from trash cans to the police department.
So we gotta have money for trash cans, so maybe if we look at what the money is for, then we can see how much of it we actually need for trash cans. And then once we see what's left over, then we can deal with allocations. Am I understanding,
I think based on the nature of the conversation you're leaning into right now,
Yep.
this is exactly the type of thing we'll do at the next meeting once we've agendized it for discussion. So we understand what Councilmember Hibbert is proposing. Staff will be able to give a more thorough explanation of what that earmarked amount of money is intended for and what the purpose was, and then you can discuss whether or not you want to move forward, considering moving that off out of the budget and then into the PD.
Oh, no, that works, because I'm only gonna spend as much as I have to, so.
I think the short answer is based off of Councilmember Hibbert's request, we will bring something back at the next meeting so that you can have the conversation and consider whether you want to move forward with that motion.
Okay, so I guess the second part of that is, will y'all have the information necessary to tell us what you will need for all of the different moving parts for the trash?
I think that we can probably get together what we would need in order to allow the council to have a discussion on the matter.
All right, does that work?
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Madam Mayor, sorry, procedurally, we do need a second to put that on the next
I
meeting.
was-
Oh, okay, sorry.
I just got to make sure I understand it. All right, so I got the motion, and then, y'all, do you guys do know I'm not supposed to be seconding stuff, right?
Yeah, I
I
read
totally
that.
can.
I read that in the rules of order.
So you gonna do a second?
I'm gonna
then,
do the
since you know?
second,
All right, there we
yes.
go. Hibbert and Murphy, okay.
Thank you. And I have one more motion. This one's a little bit easier. On March 20th, council approved $500,000 in emergency funding for the community center roof. And since then, I've had several residents just ask for updates. So I'd like to see about bringing this back to council next month to have a conversation or just to update the residents on where we are with that repair.
I can provide that. That's not a problem at all. Actually, I can do that during my comments, so, of course.
Thank you. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to thank the public and also the city staff for bringing all the feedback, the presentations, their comments. I know that we can't usually say anything, especially to the public, when it comes to their concerns, but just know that we are listening to you, and I know that I usually take notes, and I am always willing to address the public directly. So my phone number is listed anywhere, so if you have to make a phone call, I'm available, and you should know each of our email addresses. I did want to make a motion. So I want to move to discuss the motion that I made back on April 17th in respect to City Attorney Michael Doubt. I want to reiterate my motion that I made. I would like to have the City Council discuss the scope of services provided by Mr. Doubt to Mr. Les Johnson and/or any developers, builders, or agents who propose projects with the City of Los Alamitos during Mr. Johnson's employment with the City of Los Alamitos as a Development Services Director and an interim city manager from September 2018 to January 2020, as there should be deliberation and careful consideration, as it appears there's a conflict of interest. The motion was pulled from the May 2023 City Council meeting agenda calendar, as I needed to review clarification and review some additional information. But I believe that we should move to discuss this at our August 2023 City Council meeting and go from there.
I'll second that.
An item would come back to the August meeting for that discussion.
That's it?
Mhm.
Okay, we have to vote? Councilmember Hasselbrink.
Yeah, July was interesting, still is. The only thing that I did attend and kind of lived was the inaugural of the fireworks stands. We had 2 of them, one over in Vaughn's and one over in DeVita. First time in 37 years that our city has allowed safe and sane fireworks. By all accounts, it was a tremendous success. Kids were so excited to look at all the different fireworks. I saw grown men walk up with 12-year-olds in their eyes, reliving their time doing sparklers and worms. Our most popular seller was unicorn poop. It was great. We just had so many people that just made this a success. We didn't know what we were getting into. We knew that it was a big task, and I have so much respect for Park and Rec in every event that they do, because I'm not sure if my blood pressure could have handled another day of this. But because of the team effort, it really did come out without a hitch. I got to cross off a bucket list item of living in a trailer in the Vaughn's parking lot for 4 days. So I was pretty excited about that. The police department, they did constant drive-bys. I'd hear a car and I'd kind of look up, and there's one of our finest just driving by, just checking on me. Got to know a couple of the homeless guys. Pretty cool. It was just all good. Emlyn and her Park and Rec staff really stepped up when we had shortage in manpower. They met me at 8 o'clock in the morning on that Friday, and we unloaded 84 boxes at booth 1 and 84 boxes at booth 2, and then set everything up. Could not have done that without them. The LaSalle Community Foundation, so many members really stepped up on that. The nonprofits that were included in that week here, St. Isidore, Summer Harvest, Kiwanis. Now, in all regards, these are fairly small nonprofits, but their presence was immense. They just did an amazing job. Specifically, Wendy Gross and Dan Gallagher. They were there for probably 10, 12 hours at a time. If you need to sell anything, I would talk to Wendy Gross, because she is your best pitch person I have ever met in my entire life. She had people, she was upselling all day long. It was awesome. TNT Fireworks, they just held our hand through this inaugural year. They were just as excited to get a new city as we were to try and do this. They did have an aggressive budget for us to do about $80,000 in sales over the 4 days. We did $150,000. It was amazing. The president of TNT came by and said an outstanding booth would do about 110, and we would be having parties over that. And we did 150 our first year out. They were pleased with everything. I know a lot of people were concerned that this was going to cause more safety issues. I talked to OCFA, Chief Covey. There were absolutely no issues. Talked to the chief. Just to put it in perspective, in 2022, there were 9 calls for service regarding fireworks, and this year there were 4. There was no damage reported, no injuries reported. Everybody still has their 10 digits. So I want to thank everybody. We bit off more than we can chew, and we got it done. So that's it. And I was not at the base because I was selling sparklers.
Thank you for your service. Mayor Pro Tem, what you got?
Yeah, thank you. I attended both the OC Sanitation District Board meeting and the OC San Administration meeting. I know that we're still being impacted by the construction on Seal Beach Boulevard, close to Lamson. But hopefully that's not too intrusive, and remember, they are providing a service, and hopefully it'll be over soon. I also wanted to just say I really enjoyed the 4th of July on the 3rd of July. I know that when we voted on that last year, people came, people expressed their concerns, and some people didn't like it, but I think it was a more relaxed atmosphere because we all knew we didn't have to be at work the next day. I think the staff and everybody there, you just get to celebrate twice. So I think it was a little bit more calm. And of course, the soldiers get to stay home the next day and spend it with their families. So I really appreciated that. And just like always, the Parks and Rec, between the dog parks, the bands, and all the other, there's movies at Cottonwood Park. Just keep on going. I know my kids love to go to those things, and I try to get out to as many as I can. So keep up the good work, and I really enjoy, that the bringing the city together. So thank you.
All right, well, I attended the OCOG Board of Directors meeting. And so the only thing I want to add about the 3rd of July Spectacular event is that all of our electeds, well, except one, he sent an ambassador, were present. And that's a big deal because our Congresswoman had been at a funeral earlier that day, and she still came. Our senator had been on a plane twice to and from Sacramento. She came straight from the airport to our event. And our assemblyman grabbed his wife and came on out. So that really made my heart happy because I don't know the last time that we had them all there and it wasn't an election year. Because they're coming out when it's an election year. But this is an off year, so that really made my heart happy. I was in my very first parade in Dutch Haven. Dutch Haven invited me to a parade. They put me in a Bronco. They reminded me to wave and to smile. So that was super awesome. I went to my very first CEHD meeting. I always forget what the acronym stands for, but it basically has to do with housing. Like I get to go and I sit in a room and these people are like, oh, who has questions? And y'all know I raised both of my hands and I'm still asking about how the allocation works. We're in the process and they still have a survey up on the HCD website because they're looking for feedback. And we're actually going to have a study session because we are interested in the transparency practices of HCD in their meetings. So if you're still watching, I'll be there for that. Then we did have the town hall with Senator Nguyen when she came and shared with us about what's happening in Sacramento. And she shared with us what's happening around some of our neighboring cities. And that was outstanding. I went to a California Sober Living Task Force meeting, and it was really very fascinating. Y'all, keep your ears open for that. It's not necessarily, I share with people something that we would necessarily deal with in Los Al, because people don't, unless you know about it, you're not coming on purpose, like you come through an accident. But in our sister cities, we're looking to try to be the best ally and support that we can, so we're looking for more information on that. And then the Mayor Business Spotlight with Precious Life Shelter. Those are actually coming into something that I think can be a great benefit to our businesses if they take part in it. And you don't have to be big or small. You could be a nonprofit. That's what Precious Life was. We want to know your story. And if you would like to partake, then please reach out to Mr. Irving for more information. And he can get you going for that Mayor's Business Spotlight, where you will have a mayor who doesn't introduce herself before she starts speaking. It's totally awesome. And that is all that I have. And we will go ahead and, can I adjourn? We will adjourn at 8:44. Thank you all for coming.